Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Puff Drink Talk. My name is Dylan Wilson.
And I'm Hilton Kill.
And today we are talking about, anything. I don't know what we're talking about.
Well, there is no, we're going
to riff.
Yeah.
As you can see, it's just Hilton and myself today. Our friend and colleague, esteemed Konrad is a little sick.
He's under the weather, so I'm not quite sure.
Told him to stop going to the strip clubs late at night. He wasn't listening. Got to keep that dirty cash out of your mouth, Konrad.
You're going to get him in trouble with his wife.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Sorry, Konrad. Feel better, man. Jokes only happen when you're not here.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We could actually talk about backwoods and stuff.
That's interesting. I like that idea. Normally, I stay out of the backwoods.
It's going to be a free-form podcast because Konrad is actually our content manager.
Yeah.
And as he's not here, we don't know what to talk about.
No, I wish I was more up to date on pop culture and things that were happening around the world. I don't know. We could talk about like a cat parasite, maybe.
Cat parasite.
Yeah.
You are a cat father, so yes.
Yeah, I'm a father of two. No, I didn't even know this was a thing. I knew it was a thing that when women are pregnant, they're not supposed to scoop kitty litter because there's something in the poop and the pee that is bad. But it's this toxoplasmosis.
Yeah, that's the also known as the rat disease.
Yes, and that's what I found way more interesting about it. I thought it was cool. So it's similar to, what's the HBO show, The Last of Us?
Yes.
So it's like a parasite that comes in and takes over the host, but it does that with rats essentially. It takes away their fear of cats, which ultimately leads them to be eaten. And then it goes back through the cat's body and reproduces, and it just keeps producing more.
Yeah.
That's very clever.
For any women that it's a cat owner, they could develop a I don't know what the word is, but I mean, probably you're gonna, if you try and find on the internet that, but it makes it more difficult to get pregnant.
Okay.
Because it's like the eggs of the woman. I don't know what the right words.
Yeah, they are eggs.
Somehow it kind of makes it like weaker and more. It makes it a bit more difficult. I could be saying wrong things in here because I'm not a doctor, and as you can see that I don't really know all of even the words to describe. So
well, you were an ostrich farmer, so you do know a little bit
about eggs, but
don't be humble.
Birds eggs, not women eggs.
No, from my understanding of this, I think a lot of people, like almost more than 40% of cat owners, have it, but it's kind of like symptomless. You don't really experience a lot of symptoms, but apparently it's easily passed on to the baby when they're pregnant, and it affects the baby a lot.
I say that because I used to be cat father as well because of my sister. What happens is...
Don't hate on the cats.
No. What happens is our body kind of creates automatically protection for it, like what's it called?
I don't know.
Antibodies.
Antivirus, antibodies.
It creates... So basically our...
white blood cells attack it.
Yes, our human body creates antibodies for that. And then it kind of protects, but it still makes it a little bit more difficult for women to get pregnant when they have that. And that there could be a risk of that going into the baby, but it's very tiny and it's minimum.
Okay. So what you're saying is you don't have to use birth control. You could just have cats.
That's what I'm saying.
Please ask your medical professionals.
Yes, I have to say that anything that we say in here, you gotta fact check.
Yeah,
even for our football picks, which we do in the end of this podcast, because normally we smoke cigars and we do cigar reviews as well. So basically, if you wanna see the reviews of the cigars that we're gonna be smoking today, it's going to be released on the channel the week after the podcast is released. So if you like to see what we think about the cigars that we've been smoking, you're going to see probably some comments in here. The professional review is going to be on the channel. So if you go to the channel and then look that up, and then you're going to find some cigar reviews in there.
That being said, what are we smoking on today?
All right. All right. Oh no, Grogu wants to grab our cigars.
Is he trying to steal them from us?
Come on, Grogu, don't do it.
I know he's a baby, but He is of legal smoking age. So.
He is 50 years old.
That's right. I do think he said he only smokes Cubans, though.
So we're safe.
We're safe. He's one of those.
Although he might think that mine is a Cuban cigar because it's La Aroma de Cuba, Mi Amor Reserva. And it's a Cuban seed. And it's a San Andres Oscuro wrapper. So it's a Mexican wrapper. And it has a Nicaraguan binder and filler. And it's blended by Don Pepin Garcia.
Ooh, that's going to be a good one. He's a legend in the game. He's got some spicy cigar blends from what I hear. The last one I had was pretty spicy. Today I'm rocking with the Diesel Unholy Cocktail. And it is a torpedo shape, the Bellicoso, and it's a Pennsylvania broadleaf wrapper with Nicaraguan long filler and binder as well. This is blended by the renowned AJ Fernandez. I think we both have some stellar cigars. Aroma de Cuba is some of my favorite cigars.
Okay.
Way up there. So I think you're going to like it.
I think I'm going to like it.
That one is one of my favorites, the Mi Amor in general, and the Reserva is just going to be fermented a little bit longer. So you should get some
Could be even better.
Deeper flavor profiles.
Kinda sort of aged already.
Yeah, like a fine wine.
So you don't actually need to age an aged cigar unless you want to age an old person.
Yes, old people can't take that much more aging, though. I don't think is the problem.
All right.
These New World cigars are already aged a little bit. I think that's the big difference. So you don't really need to age them. Not that you can't, of course, but it's not necessary. It's the equivalent to technology plug and play. You should be able to buy it, cut it, and smoke it immediately.
I like it that way. So if you are interested to see the reviews of those two cigars, check on the channel.
It's going to be a banger.
Oh, yeah.
How you liking it?
I like it. How's your first impression on the cigar?
The first time I smoked it, I was at a family's house. It was late. We were drinking and listening to music, talking. So I wasn't really in the mindset of a review. And I don't remember these flavors from this at all. I bought a sampler pack for Diesel with, I think, 4 different kinds, 5 of each. And out of all of them, I kept coming back to the torpedo. I gave one away to my future father-in-law. And this is my last one. It's the 3rd time I've had it. But picking up that black licorice on the cold draw is the first time that happened. So,
okay.
But this is the first time I've thought about the flavors while I was smoking it instead of just smoking a cigar and talking about whatever else,
Normally when
breaking it down.
Yeah, normally when you are on a reunion, like, just like a meetup or whatever with friends, family, and you're smoking a cigar, you don't really think about the cigar.
No, you're catching up on so much stuff, and
unless it has like something that is really punching you, and then you're like, oh, I'm getting a lot of these. But normally it's just like a flow of a smoke and conversation. It's more about the experience of being with somebody, having a conversation, and smoking a cigar than the cigar itself.
Yeah, so I always bring a cigar with me to give to my father-in-law, and then he always has beer, so it's kind of like an even trade-off. But he does every time mention how good the cigar is that I give him, no matter what it is. I've given him the Mi Amor countless times, not the Reserva, just the regular Mi Amor. And every time he's blown away. He says it's the best cigar he's ever had. He thinks it's Cuban. And I'm like, I've given this to you at least 5 times this year. It's October. At least 5 times this year because I buy them all the time from a local cigar lounge. And this most recent time, he was adamant that it was the best cigar he's ever had, ever. And it was the best cigar I've ever given him by far. Like, man, it must have just been like a good batch or something because they're the same cigars I always give him. But that isn't typically, we don't sit there and be like, oh, this is giving me caramel and this and whatnot. He is almost, he will smoke a cigar this size in a good 25 minutes. And so I tend to pick smaller cigars and give him bigger ones just to try and keep up. I don't know. He has such an advantage on me with his speed of smoking. It's insane. Shout out to all the fast smokers out there.
You told me that he smokes really fast. It's like if you get like a nub kind of size and you give him like a Churchill,
exactly,
super gordo, or some sort of huge 7 inches and by 60, or and he will still finish before you.
Yeah, almost every time. And it's not like I'm not trying. There have been multiple occasions where I was actively thinking about it the entire time. I'm carrying on a conversation, listening, but the entire time I'm like, oh, I need to hit this. I keep puffing, and I look over, and he's a good third ahead of me no matter what. So I'm like halfway through the cigar, and he's like in the middle of the final third, always. So
Jeez.
he's just a professional.
That's
I
good,
respect
though.
the hell out of him.
That's good. That's good.
Well, we have Halloween coming up, so I was going to ask if y'all had everything picked out for your costumes and...
I have not. I have a lot of costumes at home, though. Probably I have about 10 different ones that I could dig in and pick up from.
Okay.
But normally we just like walk the neighborhood and see all the lights and the houses, which is very nice. It's always very... The girls love it. They just love it.
They decorate pretty well in your neighborhood. People get into the spirit.
Yes, and everybody has candy. I mean, it's the whole neighborhood comes out, and then the streets are packed. Like no cars, drive by.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's only 2 streets. Do you know what I mean? Like those 2 streets get really busy. And it's very interesting. So I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna be wearing as costume goes, because I'm just gonna go and dig into my costume boxes and see what I can wear for Halloween.
It's more than what I have. I don't have a costume box selection. The girls don't have anything that they've been wanting to do this year that they're into right now.
I'm not sure.
Disney princess or
my wife would know, but
Alice wants to be evil or something.
She likes being evil. Yeah,
she could be evil.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna be picking.
We're running out of time.
Well, it might be that they already have, and I just don't know yet.
Gotcha.
Because my wife just takes care of that, so I don't pay too much attention on that thing. What are you picking up for? And what are you doing for?
Samantha is gonna be a butterfly.
That's nice.
And I'm gonna be a butterfly catcher. So I'm gonna have like a little safari vest and hat and like a butterfly net. I'm gonna catch her, and then I'm going to take her home to my secret lair and pin her wings up like an evil scientist. And
interesting. We do not want to see photos of that.
No, that's not for children.
Because it's not going to be for children, for sure.
That's going to be when the night gets a little spooky later on,
Well, cheers.
Cheers, my friend.
We are, again, pairing the cigars with some Bucanas. So
I do. Buchanan's is my favorite. I do love that. And again, dad joke, but it's a good time of the year. Boo.
Yeah.
It's a running joke in college, too. As an American, Texan-born, we've always pronounced that as Buchanans. Like, Bu. Why? I don't know. It's what we were taught. And go to college.
Buchanans instead of
Buchanas? Instead of Bu, it's Bu, like it's got a Y in there. So when I went to college, in my fraternity, we had a lot of people that were on the Sam Houston State soccer team. They weren't white. A lot of them were Mexican, but we had a few people from like South America. And we had one guy that was from like the Middle East area, outside of Dubai, but his name was Sammy. They all said Buchanans, and they would make fun of us for saying Buchanans.
Buchanans. Yeah.
So it's just been natural for me. I just say Buchanans now. It's what I always say.
I think Latin languages would say Buchanans because it's B-U, and it sounds boo for Latin words. And of course, it's like the car, Buick.
We say Buick.
Buick. Because that's how BU sounds like in English.
In English, yeah. So that'd be interesting. It's a Scottish company. It's from Scotland. So how do they pronounce it over there?
Oh, it's going to be really different.
Yeah, I can imagine, right?
Do you think we can find on the internet somebody sounding?
Yeah, I'm sure I could find something. Maybe it's like the Great Debate. I don't know. It's like over here, people swear up, down, left, and right that it's pronounced Porsche, not Porsche.
Porsche.
And it is very well known to people that are into cars and know a little bit of German that it is definitely Porsche.
Porsche.
But people will die on that hill defending that argument that it's Porsche. And I don't get it. But people are the same with Buchanans or Buchanans, so...
But the thing is, in Brazil, for example, people say Porsche.
They do, okay.
Yeah,
not Porsche?
Not Porsche. We say Porsche for some reason. But in UK, it's Porsche.
It should be Porsche. It is Porsche.
I have to see how the Germans would sound it.
Okay, let's pull this up over here. Start this over and go full screen. Take that, Fernando. I knew it was Buchanan's.
Buchanan.
Yeah. Do you really say Buick? Like a car, a Buick?
Yeah, I normally say
Buick Regal?
Buick, yeah.
I've never heard anybody say Buick.
Well, that's how I do, and I say it.
Now I have. I hadn't prior. You don't see a lot of Buicks on the road, though. I don't.
Yeah.
Samantha drives a Buick,
Okay. Cool.
but you don't see a lot of them. Enjoying this cigar.
Me too.
Growing up, Halloween was always my favorite holiday because you get to, first of all, the weather turns. So it starts to feel really good outside in Texas. It's unbearable in the summer. Weather turns. You get to wear a costume, a mask. You can run around, be a little hood rat.
Candy.
Lots of candy.
That's why it's...
Well, you get a little devious. You get to trick or treat. You get to ding dong ditch. You know, You're dressed up as something. Your face is covered, so you feel a little protected, like looters and stuff, in like Portland or something.
Let's pull it up to see a little bit of the history on Halloween, because I know that it's the Hallows Eve, because I've done a podcast in the past about it on my Brazilian podcast. And I know the history behind.
There was some merit to what my mom was saying as a child.
Double click that to make it.
It's like Halloween being of the devil or something. Let's do this.
So basically, what do you wanna click on Wikipedia?
Let's check out. That's the History Channel.
Like the history of the name and how it.
Here's Wikipedia. I love getting all of my information from Wikipedia.
Yeah, for example,
Halloween or Halloween.
it comes to All Hallows Eve, which is the night of Hallows, or All Saints.
One theory holds that many Halloween traditions were influenced by Celtic harvest festivals, particularly the Gaelic festival Samhain, which are believed to have pagan roots. Some go further and suggest that it may have been Christianized as All Hallows Day, along with its Eve, by the early church. Interesting. It's thought to have influences from Christian beliefs and practices. The English word Halloween comes from All Hallows Eve, as you mentioned, being the evening before the Christian holy days of All Hallows Day, All Saints Day, on November 1st, and All Souls Day on the 2nd of November.
Yes.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, the thing behind it, it was a celebration of the harvest. And it has all of the dark kind of theme behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because imagine if you had a good year of, crops harvest. So they celebrate.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get through the winter with food.
Okay.
If they didn't have a good harvest that year, a lot of people would die from starvation. That winter is going to be really, really bad. And that's where the Celtics, for example, they would okay, so let's get a sacrifice. So they would sacrifice some animal.
Okay.
They would have the fire because it's light. So it's, that's why they have the fire going. So it's basically to celebrate the lives of the people that could potentially die. And then, the church kind of got that because when you see the ancient celebrations of the Day of the Dead of the church I think it was in March or April, something like that. It wasn't in November. So what they did is because everybody was celebrating these, so what they did, they changed the date to November 2nd, and also they pushed it from the 31st of October to November 2nd, so that it would fall into some other saint celebration that they used to have. So they combined the two together.
Okay.
Basically, what the church did is so that nobody would. The idea was let's create on the 2nd, so that people would celebrate the Christian traditions instead of the pagan traditions.
Okay.
Because it's much older. So they're trying to get people not to celebrate the paganism, but to celebrate Christianism.
Sure.
So that's why they changed it. But because of some reason, it just kept on existing. Like the Mexicans, they celebrate on the 1st of November instead of the 31st of, and it's the Day of the Muertos, so which is the Day of the Dead instead. But that's because of the same reason, because if the harvest wasn't good, potentially there would be no food.
Okay.
So, and that's why you have the very characteristics of the
face painting, like skulls
and face painting and the skulls and stuff, from Mexico, which is kind of the same as the Halloween celebration is, which is a pagan kind of celebration. And that's why a lot of Christians don't celebrate Halloween, and they don't like their children to celebrate it. And that's why you see houses not putting the lights up, because they are not participating. It's just because, they feel like they shouldn't celebrate something that is, supposedly to be from the devil.
Right.
But it basically, the real meaning behind it is celebrating life and celebrating death of the people that could potentially die from starvation.
That makes sense.
It's not a bad.
It's not dark and twisted.
It's not dark. It's not bad celebration. It's just an interpretation.
Gotcha.
And the church wanting to take that holiday, be celebrated, with the church people. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. And then for some reason, and why, for example, vampires and bats and whatnot, because everything was very dark in the olden days, right? There's no electricity, or if there was, only in the houses. They would create like a bonfire, and everything is so dark, and then, the light would attract mosquitoes, right? And who eats mosquitoes? The bats.
Not me.
So the bats would come to eat the mosquitoes, and then you'd see the bats flying, to catch mosquitoes to eat.
Okay.
So, and that's why you have bats and have vampire and whatnot. And just because, that's all because of that. And of course, a lot of alcohol.
Sure.
And then...
Yeah.
And then, that would create that scenario where you have ghosts, and then people would say, like, they would start drinking, of course, and then it would say, like, okay, so the ghost of my friend that died last year from starvation is here with us, celebrating with us. So it's just like a celebration of life, basically. But they didn't know better. Or, as the church would look at it, they would think that, okay, so they really don't know better. You know what I mean? Because, nobody's coming back. Only Jesus Christ came back.
Right.
So that's how it is. So it gets a little bit of a religious kind of configuration there. But it's not really a bad celebration. It's celebrating life most of and death, of course. But it's celebrating the lived life. And that's how we should say about it. But
So when did they start dressing up as characters and other people and stuff? Because that's interesting how we started donning outfits. And
I don't know, we can try and see if we can find out something like this, but I don't remember, because that podcast I recorded, that I didn't do a lot of
research
and research on that, but I never really talked about it anymore.
I mean,
it probably was like 4 years ago.
It was a while ago. Well, I think we all have a tendency to celebrate stuff that happens annually, but I've never done any due diligence to look up anything that has to do with Halloween, why we celebrate it, the history of it. They didn't teach that in school, and I never looked into it. So,
and to be honest with you, nothing we look into. Once our parents pass that information on to us, or the school, or the kids' friends, right?
Yeah, you're like, that's good.
For example, why, Santa is red? That's because of Coca-Cola. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of fun history. When we get to December, we can talk about that too, because there's a lot of fun history about the creation of Santa and its relation to mushrooms in particular. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
We'll save that for a later date. That's a cool story of eating some type of psychotropic or psychedelic mushroom and seeing a figure, and it's kind of the story of Santa.
Oh, okay.
So
don't save that.
That's a cool one. No,
that, yeah.
To be honest, to be completely frank, I need to research a little more to even be able to talk about it. But I know that is a thing, so I'll look into it a little bit more.
And but that's pretty much it. I mean, once somebody tells us something, it's somebody that we really trust a lot.
Right.
We don't really look into that.
You don't challenge it.
Yeah, exactly. So and the same thing is said for, let's say, if you have a specific religion, it's not Christian religion, right? So let's say, and then you just trust what that person that you're looking up to is telling you,
right?
And it's interpreting from the books. That's pretty much it. And people don't really go off to try and find out from themselves what it is that the truth is, to find out the truth behind,
like the truth and the origin and where things come from. Yeah, I think sometimes you hear something, like you said, from a trusted source, and you're just like, yeah,
It is what it
you
is.
don't even think to challenge it. You're like, oh, okay, that's what it is. The same way you look something up on Wikipedia and that becomes the truth. Whereas that could potentially not even be the truth.
It is all truth right now.
I implore you to do your own fact checking. I don't know. I just read stuff. I think like in a society, that's what we do. So we read and regurgitate information to other people, and it becomes a talking point. But it's when I was in high school, for example, social media was taken off. Everybody was on Facebook. Twitter became a thing. And media kind of changed. People would share videos of stuff, and it kind of got away from just updates where people would post an update about their life. It became actual pictures and images and videos. And someone recorded this slow-mo video of a dog drinking water out of a water bowl. And you watch it in slow motion, and their tongue comes it's really flexible. It comes down and then it actually folds backwards and scoops the water up and then comes in and pushes it. It's some weird way that you would never expect their tongue to work.
Like an elephant. It also does backwards instead.
Yeah. So let me find a video so there's some context to what I'm talking about. But as soon as you see a video of it, you think it is interesting. So let's watch this real quick so you can get an idea of what we're talking about here.
Oh.
It's backwards, scoops it into the lower part of the mouth.
And brings water at the
underneath its tongue,
under the tongue, and on the top as well, because it
opens
bounces up.
Yeah. So it's essentially scooping the water. Yeah. See, they're using their tongue to scoop.
Yeah.
And they're scooping backwards.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So it is cool. None of us ever thought about it before. You watch that, and you're interested in it. So then the next time you're in a conversation with somebody hey, did you know when a dog drinks water, its tongue goes backwards and it scoops it? Yeah, so it becomes a talking point. And you're excited to share it. And I remember we were in a big group. I don't know if it was lunch or whatever. Somebody was talking about it, and one of our friends was like, yeah, we all know how it works. We're all on Twitter. We all saw the same video, you know? Basically calling him out because he was just trying to share information that he saw. Uh-huh. And I think that reminds me a lot of old white men that watch Fox News only, right? And they'll spend a couple hours watching Fox News and they want to tell everybody about what they heard. Uh-huh. And all you're doing is just regurgitating information that you just saw on television. So it's not an original thought. You're not challenging anything. A lot of people just see something and literally repeat the information to somebody else. And that doesn't interest me that much. So that's kind of what I think about all kinds of stories. It's to a degree, I don't know if it's laziness.
Well, but to be honest with you, it's not a bad thing to try and spread that information.
No, right? It's not a bad thing. It's just some people, it's their, I don't even know if you'd say it's their personality or what it is, but they do it all the time. And it's they're always sharing stuff that you probably have already seen yourself. Mm-hmm. In a way, I don't know, is it trying to be relevant? I don't know where it spawns from, but a lot of the time it's you're not offering some original thought on anything, and that's why I stay out of a lot of those conversations in general, because I don't even have an original thought on it. I'm just taking in what I see around me, and so it is what it is. But I think we have a tendency that you listen to somebody say something, and you're like, oh, that's what it is. It's no big deal. But that's what we do. We regurgitate information.
Well, yeah, and we try to sound more intelligent than what normally we are, and so
sure,
that's why we have a podcast, right? So we talk about things, and we try to put our view out in the world. Yeah. And sometimes it's just regurgitating some information that we found somewhere. So that's exactly what we're doing here.
Which is why I'm saying fact check, because I don't know. I just read something and I think it's cool and I talk about it, but I don't know what I'm talking about, and I don't have to know.
And if there is two versions of the same thing, the same story, you're only telling one because you only got one.
Which we know there's at least 3 sides to every story.
Yes, every story has
and one side you'll never hear, which is the truth.
Yeah.
So
it never gets. We talked about this before.
We've talked about it, but
there is the truth from point A, there is truth from point B, and then there is the real truth, which is never told. So nobody actually knows.
It's like when 2 siblings are fighting and they go to mom and they say, Mom, Lily hit me. And then, Lily, why did you hit us? Well, she stomped on my toe first. Yeah. They're both telling the truth, but you're very careful to withhold certain information when it's beneficial towards your side of the story. Yes. So, and that's it's a very small example of how everything works.
That's how a story is told throughout. And that's why, for example, on Halloween, going back to Halloween theme, a story told, by some people, some religion, and some non-religious, people, just things that we need a holiday in order to sell more candy.
Yeah.
For example, the carving thing, it's because they needed light, so they used something else because it would protect from to be able to have light to move from the bonfire to the houses or on the street. So they would have like a lantern kind of thing, but it was out of natural light. And then in America, specifically, they decided to use pumpkins because they needed to sell pumpkins.
We grow a lot of pumpkins in the fall.
Yes, exactly. Over here, it's only pumpkins because of that.
Right.
It was a different vegetable.
Somewhere else.
In
Butternut
Ireland.
squash.
Yeah,
or
in Ireland or
whatever, potatoes.
Yes, it was some sort of green vegetable. I'm not a vegetable person, so I don't.
I try to eat a balanced diet. I actually really like vegetables. I like vegetables more than I like fruit.
Okay.
But that is interesting, and that's kind of how America run. We have all of these holidays. To me, it seems like for the sole purpose of the economy, just get people out spending money and pushing stuff back into the economy, which it's a good thing.
The same
It's not
thing
a bad
with
thing.
Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is the same thing.
Yeah, I don't really have much that I am worried about before Thanksgiving comes, but as soon as Thanksgiving's here, you got a lot to be thankful for all of a sudden. Because
somebody added ham to Thanksgiving, but originally wasn't
no ham
at all.
Yeah.
It was just turkey. So
yeah, I don't know. Growing up, I loved the spiral honey ham, and I don't anymore because I don't like a lot of sweet stuff. So I found turkey very dry as a kid, and maybe it was dry. Now that I've gotten into cooking and learning better methods of doing it, you get a nice moist turkey. I don't think there's much better than that. I could just eat the turkey. I don't really need anything else. The honey ham, I'm just not a fan anymore, but you're right. I don't know where that came in. Somebody was just like, hey, we have ham to sell. Throw that in there.
Yeah.
Some collard greens and, whatever else is around. We got it.
So let's talk about the cigar a little bit again. Let's do the review. So catch the review on the channel, please.
Coming from somebody that has lived in many places in Brazil and UK, how is Halloween celebrated globally outside of the US? Is it pretty similar?
I have to tell you that, for example, I never really celebrated Halloween in Brazil. Never. It wasn't. Brazil, it's a very, very Christian nation. Different Christian religions, but it's very, very Christian. It was all about the 2nd of November, like going to the cemetery and having like a mass celebrated at the cemetery that would go and pray for the dead.
Okay.
But we never really celebrated Halloween. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, and when I moved out, when I moved to UK, and then of course over there, it's Americanized now.
In the UK?
In UK, yeah. So
okay.
Although they have, because of the Irish, so they have like more of an Irish theme to it, but it's very, very, very similar. So the kids come and knock at the doors, trick or treating. So that is it's very, very common in UK.
Growing up, did you know what Halloween was at all, and that you just didn't celebrate it? You had no even idea that it existed?
We knew it existed because of movies.
Okay.
So we would see that on movies. We'd see that on TV. We would see that on big cities, like São Paulo, for example. But I always lived in small cities.
Okay.
Growing up, so we would see that on movies and stuff, and hear the news and watch something on TV, like local TV anyway.
Did you find it intriguing, or you just thought it was weird?
Because no, it was just like something that, do you know when you watch something that you don't really make up your mind on something that you're watching? You're a kid, right? So it's like you don't really have like a critical thinking at a young age, and then you just watch and you're like, oh, interesting. But then we didn't see anything happening in the neighborhoods.
Okay.
So it felt like it's not real. It's like a fantasy kind of thing. And when I moved to UK at the time, I was 29 years old, and then we saw that a lot of celebrations. So we would keep the lights on because we wanted to see the kids coming to the house and asking for candy, and then we would have candy for the kids.
Pass out.
We didn't have any kids, but at least we wanted to be able to hand over candy. So we always did that without knowing all of the history and the story behind it. If it was like a pagan or Christian.
I found out the history and the story behind it today,
Okay.
so it's not very far off. So that was your introduction to Halloween, was seeing that it was happening, going and buying some candy, like we'll pass it out to kids. And what was the first time that you participated in dressing up? And
It was actually here.
yes,
Yeah, because over there we didn't have any kids.
right?
So we only like open the doors and give candy, but we didn't have any costume or anything. We would sometimes have like parties at pubs. You gotta dress up to go because it's gonna be like a costume party.
Yeah.
So we didn't call it like a Halloween party.
Just a
call it
costume party. Okay.
But it was exactly around the same time, just because of people
That's why I
wanted
was
to
asking.
celebrate that way. So yes, we over there we did do that. So that's what I was telling you when asking about the costumes. So I have a bunch
You got a bunch.
because of that. So that's it. But
Well, yeah, you always could probably find stuff to throw together in general. I remember one year I was in college still, but it was from when I was working my senior year. I had like a hard hat for construction and one of those reflective big yellow vests, and I put on some jeans, and I had some chukka boots that almost looked like the Timberlands like tan construction boots that you see all the time. So I just went as like a construction worker, just stuff that I had in my closet. Football jerseys. So you go as just quick stuff that's thrown together. But you can always tell when someone just throws something together versus like it's been planned and stuff.
out,
And
yeah.
I've never really thought it out before as an adult. I've always just kind of thrown something together. As a child, my mom always liked going out and finding costumes for us and matching. My sister and I, one year we were like a bumblebee and a ladybug, and she always did things that were coordinating. But I remember as a kid growing up thinking it was always more fun for the adults because we were going around eating candy, having a fun time. But my friends' parents would always have Halloween parties, and they were all, you had to come dressed up, and they were obviously drinking alcohol. And they had music, and it was like a time for the parents to party, and all the kids were just walking around getting candy. So they got some time to hang out and have fun, and then kids would come in and
do you know the history behind handing candy to kids?
no.
So
I
okay,
don't.
so that was also a American thing. So basically, because the police would not be policing at the time of Halloween, the kids would just go and vandalize the neighborhoods.
Funny.
Exactly, and you can look it up because that's actually
What it is.
so I just it's coming up to me now, remembering
Let's talk about
from
it.
my research. So basically, and I believe was after the Second War,
Okay.
the kids would just go and vandalize for some reason that we don't know. So it was just troublemakers, right?
Sure.
And then there was one particular house that this lady didn't want to have the house vandalized because the year before she got like a lot of damage in the house because of a very rough neighborhood. So what she did instead, she opened up the garage, put like a table in front of in the driveway in front of the garage, and then she said, "If you don't vandalize my house, I'll give you candy." So these kids, even though they are troublemakers, they go like, "Well, I'd rather have candy instead."
I'll take candy, yeah.
And then somehow that was documented by a TV.
Wow.
And everybody started then doing that, so don't get their house vandalized. So that's why
Wow.
it came the trick or treat, because if you didn't have any candy, they would vandalize your house.
Wow.
So that's the story behind of that, and it's an American thing.
I
And-
never knew that.
Yeah. So and that's like 50 years ago, 60 years ago. It's not like a long time ago. No, this is recent.
Relatively recent, yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it is interesting because
interesting.
and everything is made to be easy on us, on civilians, right?
Yeah.
So that's how the candy got introduced to to the Halloween as well. So it's an American thing. So Americans have been creating stuff because troublemakers.
Pioneers. Hey, you got to get creative. That's smart. You got people breaking into your house and vandalizing. You got to find a way to get around. That's pretty smart.
And to get the little kids to also go and join the
Tradition.
tradition.
or-
Well, not the tradition, but it's like, okay, so my kids want the little kids want to go and get candy. So then you find a lot of houses also giving booze.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then you have people giving beer.
Yeah.
So you don't see that much these days, but in the 70s, there was a lot
You
of
can see that.
beer being given. But that was and that was here in America, and there was something about some people that would go to the houses and knock at the door, and then they would say like, if you give me cookies, because it was cookies in that's in Britain or Ireland, or Scotland, somewhere there in England. So they would go and say, I actually have a message to the person that died. So every single house has somebody that died, right? So they would bake some cookies, because the cookie was some sort of way of sending a message. Somehow they would give the cookie to these people, because they would pray for the soul. So the more, yes, there's something like that. So the more people praying for the souls of the people that died from the last year's poor harvest would get, and that's where the ghosts come from. So
Okay.
they would get, so the more prayer they would get, they would be able to go to heaven as well. So that was that as well. So that's why the Christians, even some Christians, never gave up celebrating, because people would come, knock at the door, so like, if you give me this cookie, I will, it's some berries, and they will pray. So they'll have not only the family praying, but somebody else also praying for that person. So they would take the cookies and the name of the person written on paper to pray for that person.
Okay.
So there is that as well, which, again, you gotta
Look
it up and send us comments on that, because I don't quite remember everything, but it's interesting. It's an interesting
Yeah.
celebration. I don't feel like it's a bad celebration whatsoever. I just feel like there's a good reason behind it.
Yeah. When things get associated with stuff that's negative or of the devil, it tends to not be accepted lightly by the Christian folk. But my mom's a very Christian person. She's raised in a very Christian family, so it'd be interesting to see if they celebrated Halloween as children. I don't know. But there was never a question of Halloween when I was a kid, a young adult, high school, none of that. Simultaneously, though, she didn't want me to watch Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or anything because it was of the devil and paganism, but Halloween was fine.
Interesting. Well, that's because maybe she didn't know.
I think she knows because Halloween is so dark and there's so much. She tried to keep us from watching scary movies and things like that, but I think as a mother, she still wanted us to enjoy the things that other kids were. She didn't want us to be like outcasts and weird, not have the
Okay.
same experience.
That
That's my...
bullied. Yeah.
I got to talk to her because I'm interested now to know the reasoning behind it, because there was never any question of whether we weren't going to celebrate Halloween. So I'm sure it was like she didn't want us to be bullied and stuff.
Probably.
So now I'm curious if they celebrated Halloween when she was a kid, because her parents were just as Pentecostal, very strict religion. So that would be interesting to find out. But yeah, like Harry Potter, any other movies, stuff like that was off limits. Like tattoos, forbidden. You can't put anything on your skin. That's of the devil. It's paganism. Still to this day, they hate tattoos.
Tattoos and stuff.
Yeah. I remember when she found out that I had tattoos, that she was very, very upset. I think I was coincidentally at a Halloween party in college, and I dressed up as like a toga guy. So I had a bed sheet or something, and it came across sideways on me. So my whole left side was open, and I have a tattoo right here on my chest. One of my tattoos is on my chest. And someone in my family, it was like a new update to Facebook when you were tagged in something. It posted on my timeline as well. So before I could be tagged in something, you can find me, but no one that I was associated with necessarily would see it. So it was a girl that was in college. She tagged me in it. Then all of a sudden, my family members and everybody that followed me can see stuff that I'm tagged in. And they had changed that recently. And so everybody saw it. And it was a big ordeal. My mom we didn't talk for a few months because she just didn't even know what to say to me. She was so hurt. And then we went on a vacation together. Her and my stepdad got married. We went to Mexico, and we were at like an all-inclusive resort. And I believe I was 19, maybe 18. The legal drinking age in Mexico is 18. So I got pretty hammered. And I was at a pool just talking to a couple that were in their 40s. I'm 18. And I'm just talking to these guys for like almost an hour, just in the pool, by the pool bar, getting drinks. I don't know. I don't know why they were interested in even talking to me. They had to have probably been drunk themselves. But I was having a good time. And then my mom strolls up in the pool, and it was the first time she'd ever seen it in person. I remember looking at her. She just looked so sad. Makes me feel bad. But, I mean, you can't make all your life decisions based on other people, you know? You want to do something for you, you got to do it for you. I didn't do it to hurt anybody, you know? Yeah. That's not the intention behind it. So it's interesting. And still to this day, my stepdad's like, no, that's of the devil, man. I'm like, I just don't agree with that.
I would like to know the update on your conversation with your mom on that. I mean,
about tattoos or about Halloween?
About the Halloween and the tattoos. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
If you see the story about the tattoos, is exactly the same thing as the Halloween.
It's not necessarily rooted in evil.
No, but that's, for example, the pagan
church belt, the southern area in the United States is very religious. Not that you don't find it in other places, but when you get in that church belt area, everybody gets really serious about that stuff. And my brother-in-law, Billy, got a tattoo that was his mom's name, Janet, with angel wings, so that she couldn't say anything. So she doesn't like tattoos, but the fact that he got her name, she's like, well, I can't. She's okay with it. So.
Yeah, my sisters, and he already passed, first husband. His first tattoo was I don't know the name in English, but it was a heart with some sort of a spiral kind of crown with spikes kind of thing, which is a symbol of the Catholic religion, because it symbolizes the blood of Jesus Christ kind of dripping away and whatnot. So that's the first tattoo he did, and exactly so that his mom wouldn't be upset
about it.
Yeah, so that's actually a common thing, when you have a very Christian family, they do not want to, like I do have a tattoo, but my mom does really, she just prays, for me. She doesn't really. My parents are very fine with everything, so, but yeah.
Well, I think your early teens, you get to 18, 20, those are very trying times in your life, and it's like you go through phases of stuff, so to speak. Everything has a lot of meaning, and you think you know everything, you know nothing. I find out every year I know nothing. I think I look back on when I was like 20, and I thought I knew everything. Yeah. Every year I find out how dumb I am. And I hate looking back at old stuff. I'm like, oh God, it's cringy because you don't know any better, right? Yeah, but it's like at that age, you're very impressionable and things happen. And so my parents being divorced and growing up in trials and tribulations, my dad's a very free soul kind of person. And he believes in like your third eye being open and not drinking like public tap water because it has fluoride in it and it closes your third eye and you're not woke and all this stuff. This is after, he grew up very religious and Pentecostal, same religion as my mom, and then he kind of turned in later life, and then getting to spend time with divorced parents. I live with my mom, then I get to go spend time with my dad, and really have these deep, deep philosophical conversations about life and the history of things, and it just makes you think about religion. And my experience personally with religion wasn't a good one. Being around Christian people always felt like they were the most judgmental people I ever came across. And they were supposed to be the best people. They're Christian. They go to church every Sunday, but they get off on talking about you behind your back. And I never understood that. And so I just had a very sour taste with religion. And around middle school, 6th, 7th grade, I didn't want to go to church anymore. I just didn't like being around. It felt so fake. And
what is the term that you use when you it's like mouth talk or bad mouthing
someone?
Yeah, okay.
Which is what it sounded. That's what people do. It's like somebody's nice to your face and they talk behind your back as soon as you're gone. They could badmouth you. And it's like you just have to live up to this certain standard. You're going to go to church. You have to wear your church clothes. You have to look really nice. And it's like from my own household. My mom, but can you believe Susan wore that dress to church today? Did you see her hat? Wow, that's trashy. And all these side comments that as a kid, it goes right past your guard because it's your mom. You're like, oh yeah, and you just start buying into this program of like, yeah, why are they doing that? And then I started feeling like I'm a judgmental person. And then as I got into my teenage years, spending more time with my dad, I kind of really took a big step back and try to look at stuff for what it was and see people and where they come from. And they act the way they act for a reason. It's just different. And so since it's different than us, we pass judgment. And I don't like that. I don't like the whole...
I have something to say about that. And
Well, so my first tattoo, instead of getting something about Christianity to break the ice and blah, 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 I went a completely different direction. Mm-hmm. I got a Buddhist symbol, and I even have Buddha inside of the symbol. I'm not Buddhist. I don't practice Buddhism.
You
But the
just went
symbol,
to really
and it
go
wasn't,
hard on it.
and it wasn't really like an FU to my mom or anything. It wasn't about anybody else but me. But the symbol and what it stood for and its meaning was stuff that I kind of connected with at that time and that age, and it meant something to me, and I liked it. But it had nothing to do with Christianity.
Probably now it doesn't have the same meaning, you know.
No, I don't regret getting it, and I wouldn't take it off. It's not a big deal to me, but it's not like it hits home so hard that it's my everything. That's like who I am as a person. And at that time, I think just being an impressionable young kid, it's like, oh, this is a big deal to me, and I really wanted to do that. But I think that was another aspect of it that really pissed my mom off or hurt her feelings. It might not have been anger; it could have been depression. But not only was it a tattoo, it was another. Sure, and you probably would have a better sense of that as a parent. I'm not a parent, so probably there was this sense of disappointment. Not only was it a tattoo, but it was a tattoo involving symbols of another religion.
From like all the education that I gave, and now it's for nothing.
The symbol itself doesn't have to be religious, though. It just means being a good person. It's like you see anything. Like, what does a cross mean?
Exactly.
It stands for something.
So
as you look into what things actually stand for, and then, you know, there are some people out there that have like Japanese or Chinese letters, like symbols, and they think it says something. It says completely something different.
Because if the guy makes a tiny little mistake and it corrects about rounding it in here, well, it shouldn't be round because now round means toilet.
Yeah, so you thought it meant like
love in the world.
Yes, and it means like horsecock or something. Like it's something crazy that you would have never known. Yeah. So it's not like it's something like that even. I did a little research on what I was doing. Certain things, you don't understand it, you pass judgment.
Yeah, one thing that I have to say, going back to what you meant about bad-mouthing people and stuff, like there was one Christmas time, because, I mean, my sister lives in abroad. And I live abroad, and so most of the times that we meet our family is around Christmas time because it's a holiday period.
Yes.
So there's more time. So we'd go and spend time with family at that around that time of the year. And so one day, my sister, everybody was doing like fasting. You know what I mean? Like I'm not eating ham, or I'm not eating meat, or I'm not drinking Coca-Cola or something like that.
And this is around Christmas time?
Yes, like fasting of some sort. And my sister, and then everybody turned to my sister and asked, like, what are you fasting? And then she said, like, well, I'm not fasting, but, and everybody, you know, around that, I wasn't there, and she told me, it was like, my fasting is what I would like you all to do, is like, let's not badmouth anybody today, because since I sat in here for this lunch,
it's all we've done.
You're all going off of somebody, you know, bad-mouthing them.
Sure.
So let's not bad-mouth anybody. And then everybody looked at us like, oh. And we are the people, very religious people that go to church almost every day. And like that. So I do recognize that. So, and that tells me, because I lived in, now 3 different countries, but I have, one of my best friends is German, and I have, friends that are Mexicans. I have friends who are from South Africa, and I have friends from France. So many different countries, because I met so many different people, at this time. And so I know a lot of different cultures, and basically people are people. And we have exactly the same. It's just like a tiny little bit difference between what we things that we do normally, just because it happens to be that way on that particular country.
Yeah.
But everybody is the same. And that's why I don't like calling it race or some. Don't know what I mean? Like black and whites and so. I don't like it, and just because. Everybody.
It's human nature, right?
Exactly, it's human, and so I do get what you're saying, and I do recognize that on for some reason, they badmouth.
What it is, though, is it's the hypocrisy of it.
Exactly,
is what I think is so frustrating. You're passing judgment as if you're holding someone to a higher standard that they're not fulfilling, so you pass judgment. But what are you holding yourself accountable for? That's what I never. As a Christian, you shouldn't be passing judgment on people. Just because someone does something differently doesn't mean it's better or worse necessarily. I mean, you can look at some things inherently are better than other things, but just because someone goes to a store wearing flip-flops doesn't mean they're poor and trashy, you know? And there are people that think that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just think it's like, if you're going to hold someone to a certain standard, what standard do you hold yourself to?
Yeah.
And I think that culture of talking about people and children hear their parents do it, well, then they're going to do it. And it's a never-ending cycle of teaching your children.
On this never-ending cycle, I'm trying to create a new...
With your kids?
Yeah, a new thing. For example, the same way as ham was introduced for Thanksgiving,
yeah,
I'm introducing pork ribs to the meal. Do you know what I mean?
I like that idea.
So every single Thanksgiving since my kids were born, I have been doing... Yes, we do have the ham and the turkey and ham because we always meet with somebody and they have turkey and ham.
Somebody will have turkey and ham.
But I don't like turkey, and I like turkeys alive because I like birds. But that's me.
We're a bird supporting podcast, folks.
We are a bird supporting podcast. So basically, I'm introducing pork ribs. So when they will be cooking for their kids, they probably will be cooking pork ribs. So I'm introducing that.
Do you do the St. Louis style, like dry pork ribs, or you put a sauce on them? Now I love pork ribs, so
I do the Brazilian.
Me.
Yeah, I do the Brazilian way, which is just like a little bit of seasoning that we do in Brazil. We don't really use much.
Just like salt and pepper, or what else? You don't use a lot of black pepper.
No, it's more salt and some of the
garlic powder,
yes.
Onion powder.
No, it's more like onion and garlic.
Okay.
And then we just like blend it and create like a little paste, and then we add salt to it, and then
smear
that's
all
it.
over, baste it.
But I've started recently also using some like rub.
Okay, the dry rub.
Yeah. So, and then instead of like the barbecue sauce, I just like rub. I do two.
Like a barbecue dry rub.
Yes. So because we do like with a lot of people, right? So I take 2 ribs into the dinner. So somebody will do 1 turkey, somebody will do a ham. And because they are big pieces, and I do 2 different styles.
Okay.
And every single year, every single time, and because the way I cook it, and the bones come off, so I take the bones out, and it's all meat.
Oh, you take the bones out before you bring it over?
Yeah. It lays perfectly in there, but no bones.
And you just pull all the bones out.
Yeah. So
cool.
Yeah. So what happens is the ribs finishes on the first round.
I was just going to say, it probably doesn't last, right?
It doesn't last. It's the first round, both ribs are gone. And then we kind of have a little piece, and then we have like a massive leftover of turkey, a leftover of a ham that you keep there for an extra 6 months eating that in the small pieces because they don't taste as good as a pork rib.
That is the time of the year I get the most creative as a leftover food cook. I'll take mashed potatoes. You take bread, right?
Yeah.
Smear mashed potatoes on one side, and then you smear cranberry sauce on this side. You can put the leftover dry turkey, pour a little gravy on it, maybe some cheese, then you close it, you make it like a grilled cheese.
Okay.
And you get like some sweetness from the cranberry sauce. You get some texture from the mashed potato and the turkey. If you put something in there that has like a little crunch to it, you get like a really good texture. But you just have to get creative with your leftovers because you're right. You have all this leftover turkey and all this leftover ham. Like, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Sometimes those are my favorite sandwiches because they're just like an impromptu moment where it's like, I'm just going to take what I have.
But then you do sandwiches.
I do sandwiches, yeah. Yeah, that's what I tend to. Yeah.
So it's actually a much better idea than try to pair this with like some pasta or rice.
No,
or
it's
something
super
like
easy
that.
to make any kind of sandwich.
Yeah,
and you could just put turkey and cheese and lettuce or something, but you could add stuff to it to get creative. One year I took some turkey and chopped it all up, made it like shredded and made like enchiladas.
Okay.
And put like a sauce over it. And it was good. It's just repurposing the food.
But I don't want to throw it away.
As far as simple, quick, any type of sandwich is super fast and easy, whether it's ham or the turkey. But there's a lot of stuff you can do with it, if you're into cooking.
Well, we are halfway through the cigar, so let's talk about the cigars again. So we'll see you in a bit.
Well,
let's do our Battle of the Logos.
I think it's time.
That's time for Battle of the Logos. Let's do our football picks. And
all right.
We're going to honor Konrad's picks as well, because he did send us his picks for the week.
Last week was the coming out party of Hilton and the logo picks.
I gotta say, if you don't know anything about football, pick from the logos and pick the birds. Because I scored 9 correct wins of last week's. And Dylan and Konrad, it was a wash.
Let's just
I
say
beat them like a lot.
it wasn't even close.
It wasn't even close. How many points did you get?
Let's start off by saying there was a bunch of teams on bye, so there were only 13 games.
There is no excuse, please.
No, this is for you. I'm making an argument for you.
Okay.
There's only 13 games.
How many correct?
So normally you get 9 right. That's just okay. 9 out of 16 is barely better than 50%. There's only 13. So you got 9 out of 13. I got 5 out of 13. So that was barely more than half of what you got correct. Unfortunately, Konrad got 4 out of 13, which is less than half of what you got correct. And Hilton is eating this shit up. I mean, this guy, he knows what he's talking about, folks. You better follow him.
Birds.
I'm telling you, sometimes you think you know, but you don't know. All right.
That's good. Let's go with this week then.
Let's jump in. We are on week 8. First game is our Thursday night game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Buffalo Bills. I am going to take Buffalo and the Bildos. What about you?
I have been picking Buccaneers. They have been okay with me sometimes, and because it's 3-3, but I do like the name.
It's a great name.
So I'm going Buccaneers.
Buccaneers. Alrighty. Konrad is going to take the Bills.
Am I going the opposite again?
Could be. Houston Texans at the Carolina Panthers. I'll let Konrad go first this time. He's going to pick the Houston Texans.
There's no other pick. It's going to have to be Texans.
I hate a sweep.
Okay.
I hate the Texans.
Well, I live in Texas. I'm taking Texans.
I just don't think I could take the 0-6 Panthers. This is going to be... We're in week 8 in the National Football League. This is the first time I've picked the Houston Texans. We're going to sweep.
Are we going to sweep?
We're going to sweep. I can't do it.
Okay.
Los Angeles Lakers at the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys. Obviously.
It's another sweep.
Konrad's on the Cowboys. The Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, that one, my friends. I have to tell you, the Vikings beat. Who did the Vikings beat? The 49ers? So the Vikings beat the 49ers because I picked them. And these two guys picked the 49ers. So, and I'm a Viking. So I'm going to go Vikings. And there is another reason going Vikings because as we talked about Halloween, right? So I'm Vikings this week.
You should be a Viking for Halloween.
Yeah. Well, yeah, could I? Yeah.
We're all going to take the Vikings.
Is it a sweep again?
The Packers haven't shown me enough to pick them. I don't know. And that makes me nervous. Sweeps always result in weird scenarios. So watch the Green Bay Packers win. We're all taking the Vikings. We're going to take the New Orleans Saints at the Indianapolis Colts. Okay. I am going to go ahead and take the Colts.
I prefer the Saints logo, so I'm going Saints.
Konrad is going to go with the Colts as well.
I'm going the opposite direction.
Let's take a peek at the Patriots versus Miami, the Dolphins.
Fins up.
We're all fins up. We're all fins up nation over here. It's an easy one.
I've been picking Dolphins from the beginning because I like Dolphins.
Well, these are all interesting games. It doesn't really matter anymore. It's a divisional matchup. When they're close in record, it matters. It could be the case that the Patriots beat the Dolphins, but at the end of the season, if the Dolphins have a better record, doesn't matter. So if they end up with a tying record, that's the tiebreaker's divisional game. So it is a big deal, but it's going to be the Dolphins. Same with the Vikings and the Packers. It's a divisional game. All right, the New York Jets at the New York Giants. New York on New York. I don't know. This is a toss-up for me. Being that the Giants last week played really well, I'm hoping they can do it again. They're going to be at home. The MetLife Stadium is a home game for both the Giants and the Jets. However, the Jets are technically going to be the road team because they share the same stadium. So,
well,
what do you think?
I'm going to go for the logo because this is the battle of the logo.
It is.
So I'm actually going to run the scene. Because the logos tell me that I have to pick Jets. It's a better logo.
Yes, it is a better logo. Konrad's also going to take the Jets, and I think I'm going to be the devil's advocate,
Okay.
and I'm going to take the Giants. Just
Why-
for fun here, I'm
What
going
is
to...
that?
The Giants played really well last week. Tyrod Taylor taking over at the quarterback position over Daniel Jones is just night and day. He's playing way better. It seems like the energy of the team is lifted. Everybody wants to go out and win. Nobody wants to lose, but they picked up Darren Waller at the tight end position this year. It feels like he hasn't been utilized very well. Last week he was. It felt like the defense played a little bit better. Can lightning strike twice? Probably not, but I'm going to pick the Giants just because, I feel bad for them. But the Jets logo, that's not even the coolest of the two logos, by the way. They have one, they're the Jets, so they have one that's a jet plane. So their logo is actually pretty cool. And I like this one a lot too, where it just adds like a little plane up at the top of the Jets.
Oh, that's cool.
So I think they actually have a pretty cool logo in comparison to most teams, actually. It's subtle, that little plane. I just think it's cool. If I were picking based off logos, I would probably pick the Jets too. So I don't blame you.
So I'm getting...
But we're split decision. So let's move on down to the Jacksonville Land Rovers at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, that's difficult for me because I like the story behind the Steelers. Like on the very first week, I'm talking about the
colors,
history, the colors, and the metal, the steel trade and whatnot there.
Right.
But I'm a Land Rover supporter, so...
Oh, my Lord. We have another sweep.
Is it?
It's another sweep on the Land Rovers.
Okay.
All right, let's drop down. The Atlanta Falcons at the Tennessee Titans.
Bird.
I'm also going to take the Birds. Konrad is going to take the Titans.
Oh.
And that's a trend. I've seen Konrad is either a fan of the Titans or he respects that organization as a good team because he's been picking them quite a lot. Speaking completely not out of facts, just out of false memory, I think he's gotten those more often wrong than right. I mean, they're 2-4. Konrad, stop picking Tennessee, dude. They're screwing you up. I'm saying that as your friend. I'm going to show you the analytics pretty soon. You got to catch up. Hilton is beating you.
I am.
You can't allow that.
Yeah. I'm somehow beating you, Konrad. Come on. Somehow.
Well, just because we have the competitive juices flowing here, yes, he did have a great week last week. That being said, I'm still ahead of you. And this week, I'm probably going to fall behind because I have no idea how any of these are going to play out. So let's not get too cocky.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Birds.
Konrad's also going to take the Eagles. They played once already. This is a divisional game.
Man, I like the Commanders.
So for a second here, we have the time. If we do Commanders versus Eagles, I'll show you their first game. This is the one that's about to come. Here it is. So it was on October 1st, and they were tied.
Wow,
and
very close.
The game went into overtime.
Oh, they did tie then.
They tied 31-31. They had to go into overtime. Philly took it with a field goal to win. It was a close game. Washington was pissed. The guys that play for that team were pissed. And I just think the past 3 or 4 years, Cowboys fan, NFC East, both of these teams are in the same division as the Cowboys. I watch these teams every year. I watch the Washington, now Commanders, all the time. This is the best team I've seen from them in 4 years, 5 years, easily. Philly is a juggernaut team. They're great. It's very hard to ever pick against them, but as a devil's advocate and hoping, I'm praying because this would be great for Dallas. If Dallas...
Okay, if the Commanders win...
That's good for Dallas.
It's good for Dallas, okay.
Yeah, so personally, and it's a home game from them.
And Dallas, the Cowboys.
The Cowboys, and I'm hoping that they find the juice to get it done. So I'm going to take the Washington Commanders.
I'm a bird supporting person.
I know. I don't blame you.
This is a tough one because the Browns have been playing well.
The Cleveland Browns at the Seattle Seahawks. And this is a tough one. A lot of the last Browns game was a very close game. They won by 1 point. It was, I think, 49-48. It was a very high-scoring game, and it was very close. They're on the road. I'm not 100% sure if Deshaun Watson's going to be playing or not. He has a shoulder injury.
Deshaun Watson
He is their starting quarterback.
For
the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
They're on the road, and he last week got hit. His shoulder hurt. He went out early in the game. He had a very bad game, and then the backup came in, and they won. That was great for them. I don't know enough about what's saving Cleveland right now, the Cleveland Browns, is their defense. If they have a great defensive performance, they could win. Seattle, I don't know if DK Metcalf is going to play. I think he might be injured. I don't know. They have the same record. This is a very, very, very tough game. I'm going to let Konrad go first, and
Well,
we all know
Seahawks
who he's going to pick.
supporter,
So,
and I'm a bird supporter and friend supporter.
okay.
So I'm taking the Seahawks.
I am a friend supporter, but
It's if you pick the Browns, is the second time you're going against Konrad.
it's not personal, and he knows it. I just think I have to do it. So I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks and the Birds, and then we're going to move on, building up suspension.
You're getting the Browns.
Yeah, it's another sweep, folks.
Again.
Now,
presenting you the Battle
of
the
the
Birds.
I don't know. We got the Ravens at the Arizona Cardinals. They're 1-6. They've won 1 game and they've lost 6 games. Who did they beat? It was the Cowboys.
So you're going Ravens, spite them.
I can't stand the Arizona Cardinals.
I am gonna go with the better logo looking, and I think the Ravens have like a more aggressive, it's a longer beak, and the Cardinal logo there has some sort of like a more friendly. But having said that, it looks like the Angry Birds.
Kind of does if he lost some weight.
Yeah,
That Redbird's the fat one, so
yeah.
he went on a keto intermittent fasting diet.
I'm gonna pick the Ravens. For some reason, I prefer that logo. It's a more, it's a little smaller, but it has like a more aggressive look to it.
I think we're going to have more sweeps this episode than we've ever had.
Really?
All 3 of us are going to be on the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
We're moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos. I'm going to have to take KC and the Kansas City Chiefs. I know you don't know. Taylor Swift is dating the tight end for Kansas City. And it's been all over the news. ESPN, Fox, CBS Sports, everything. It's all the talk.
Oh, I saw a meme, not a meme, like a short video on like a lady saying, like, can you imagine that this guy is now only famous because of what is the person that's
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift?
Which is
After Taylor Swift started dating him and nobody knew what he was, and
Yes.
then the husband was like, I can't even talk to you right now.
Oh.
What world do you live in? It was like a very, very fun. So that's what they're talking about.
Yes, and it's hilarious because my fiance has seen all of this stuff too, and she's wanted to do the same thing on TikTok, like the trend, and you see it, and it's like, he's a 7-time Pro Bowler. He's been in the league for over 11 years. Everybody know. What are you talking about? He's famous because of Taylor Swift? And then, so now I've started to see a couple of like, oh, Taylor Swift is famous because she started dating this tight end guy, but it doesn't have any traction. Swifties, you don't want to mess with them.
No.
So we're going to go on record to say this is a Taylor Swift supporting podcast.
Yeah,
we love the Swifties, and we're going to take the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm taking the Kansas City just because I've been taking them from the past weeks. Even though Broncos is a horse kind of thing.
Right.
I kind of like that logo much better than the Kansas City logo. But I like Kansas. I like Kansas City. I never been there, but I just like saying that name.
They're actually in Missouri.
Okay.
It's Kansas City, Missouri, and
I
they have
would
great
take the
barbecue.
Chiefs. I'll take the Chiefs now. I like barbecue.
Me too. Okay, that's another sweep.
Well, hold on. Now it's the Tigers.
It's the
against
Tigers
49ers.
against the 49ers.
So you see, I'm learning something. So the Bengals are actually Tigers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where they're from, though. I don't remember.
A Bengal?
Yeah.
Oh, the team or
The team, where's the team from?
Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
You want to start us off or you want me to go?
Well, hold on. Let me put You go, because I'm thinking 49ers. I picked against them last week, and I kind of scored.
And you were right.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why they lost last week could be that they just weren't playing as well, but Deebo Samuel was out, and Trent Williams, their left tackle on the offensive line, was also out. Those are big positions. They didn't have much production on offense, and their defense, which had nothing to do with those two guys, just didn't perform as well either. So there's multiple factors. I'm going to take the Tigers.
You?
I'm going to take the Tigers. Do you want to go last? Do you want me to tell you Konrad's pick?
Konrad's pick.
The Niners.
Oh, fuck. That doesn't help me.
That's why I was going to... That's why I wanted to say it.
It doesn't help me at all. I don't know, both logos there, not great looking logo. The Tigers logo, when they use a tiger face, it's really
Better.
cool. Having said that, what is the secondary logo for SF? Is it San Francisco?
San Francisco, California. So we're going to look up the 49ers logo, see if there's some alternates. I got to tell you, growing up watching, the only logo that I am familiar with is just this logo. The red background with the gold around the perimeter, white SF. That's the only logo I've ever seen.
Okay.
So.
Oh, that one is cool. That has 49ers, like a 3D kind of
this one?
lettering. No, go up a little bit in the center there.
Oh, that is cool.
No, the other one. That's also cool, but that one, yes.
That's cool.
That's really nice.
Okay.
Having said that, 49 is supposed to be a really good team. I don't know. Can I pass?
Yeah.
No,
a pass is the same thing as getting it wrong, though. So it's like you might as well
take one.
You take a shot and see if you get it right or not.
I think they will play well for the Niners because they lost last week, and I think they lost 2 weeks in a row.
They did. That's why it's very outlandish for me to pick Cincinnati. But
I'm going to go for the Niners.
All right. Chicago Bears at the Los Angeles Chargers.
I'm Bears. I went to Chicago this week. I couldn't watch the game because I had to be in the airport at 3 o'clock, and I could potentially miss my flight, but I almost went to watch it.
Do you know the result?
I think they won because I saw people on the train going to
all excited about it.
All excited about it, but the game wasn't finished yet. I think, or was some highlights going on because there were some people watching on the phone, and that's why I think they won.
Yeah, no, they did win. They played against the Raiders, and I believe we all picked the Bears. We might have all swept the Bears last week, so we all got it right. But yeah, I don't know.
I did pick the Bears, and I'm going to
stick with the Bears?
The Bears, yeah.
For the score, if you're looking at something in retrospect, it's like, why would you not pick the Bears? They won 30-12, but in the moment before the game happened, it wasn't as cut and dry as this. I was kind of torn. Easy. Yeah, it wasn't an easy decision. I just thought, I don't know. The Raiders do not have it. As I've mentioned in the past, I think they potentially are just like a cursed team or something because they can never get out of this rut that they're in. So, I don't know. It's been a slurry of things. John Gruden is inappropriate emails getting leaked and all kinds of lore of information you could find out. That
Bears, I liked Chicago a lot. It's a great city. Great. I liked it a lot. A lot of cars on the street and
revving their engines.
When I got there, it was like 10:30 in the evening on a Friday, and there was this guy on a bike on a just like it was a red traffic light.
Yeah.
And then the guy was revving the bike and then spinning the wheels.
He's
like
doing like a burnout.
A burnout, yeah.
Awesome.
And it was like so cool. So, and I get that guy was a Bear supporter.
Because for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to stick with the Bears.
All right. Conrad and I are both going to be on the Chargers.
Oh, really?
So we're going to move on.
On another thought, I'm keeping the Bears.
Yeah. I had a feeling. All right, our final game of Week 8, back to 16 games.
Well, I will start with that one because I have been a Lions because I'm a Leo Lions person. So I'm Lions.
Konrad is also on the Lions here.
You don't want to do a sweep again?
I'm nervous about it. I've picked against the Raiders twice, and they've lost twice. And I'm thinking, are they going to... The same thing with the Niners. Will they lose 3 games in a row? Or am I wrong, and they've only lost... I don't know. They could have only lost 1. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know. I'm going to take the Las Vegas Raiders. I got to take the Las Vegas Raiders. I hope I don't regret this.
Well, I'm sorry to say, but you will.
My Excel spreadsheet says I won't.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, is that it?
That is it.
Well, thank you very much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And send us your comments on Halloween and traditions.
Let us know what you're dressing up as. And as always, if you have any cigar suggestions for us to review, any topics that you'd like to hear about, let us know. We're always interested in getting some ideas. We don't know. We just come on here and we talk. So if there's something you'd want to hear, we'll talk about it.
Yes, so. And every time that we talk about something, we don't really know about the subject. So if you want to hear a different opinion than you have, potentially, this is the podcast about.
Listen to some guys talk about something they don't know about.
Yes.
I'm really good at that. So, again, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.